Welcome to the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast. I'm Coach Lisa Callahan, a recovered emotional eater. I ended decades of self-inflicted struggles with food through taking a journey of self-discovery, which revealed the secrets of what was going on underneath the food. Throughout this podcast, we'll explore topics that are rarely talked about, like low self-esteem, lack of confidence, people-pleasing, and decades of self-sabotaging behaviors. Rather than just focusing on the food, we'll dive deeper into aspects of who you are as a person and how you ended up relying on food for comfort to begin with. My mission is simple: to empower women to regain their confidence and prioritize self-love, regardless of the number on the scale. Discover what you've really been craving, and trust me, it's not about the food. This podcast is based on insights shared from the Women's Emotional Eating Community Support Group on Facebook, so be sure to check out the show notes for the link to the group and a complimentary gift just for you. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hey, welcome to another fun and insightful episode of the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast. The topic today is how to set realistic and sustainable weight loss goals. So as we start this episode today, I want you to envision a life for yourself where you no longer have weight loss as being a goal. Yes, the reason why I titled this topic today, how to set realistic and sustainable weight loss goals, is because what I want you to be able to do through listening to this episode is challenge yourself to never have a weight loss goal again. Now, I know that if you've been dieting for years and if you felt like weight loss has to be a goal, because if it's not, then how are you going to ever get to your destination where you no longer have to worry about food and you no longer have to weigh yourself and you no longer have to, micromanage your diet and everything that you put in your mouth? Because I know that for most people, that adds a layer of stress to your life that you feel like maybe would not be helpful if you continued on that path. So you might be thinking, well, Lisa, I have to have a weight loss goal, because if I don't, I know myself so well, and I'm just going to tear down the house and eat like an unsupervised child in a candy store. If I don't have a weight loss goal, then what the heck am I doing, right? And so as we step in here to this podcast today, I want to challenge you to not have to have a weight loss goal, because it's not realistic or sustainable to ever have a weight loss goal. Which is why I titled this topic today about weight loss, because I want to give you an opportunity to be seeing a new way of thinking. If you never think about a new idea, and if your goals continue to be about weight loss, they're always going to continue to be about weight loss. And then, as you've seen from your past history, you may have reached your weight loss goal and then gone right back to the start line. And so back and forth and round you go, feeling like you're on a hamster wheel and never really getting to the destination that you envisioned you would have once you reach that specific weight. So that's why, as we come in here today and we want to learn how to set realistic and sustainable goals, we will actually not be talking about weight loss at all. So it's really cool how you can start to see your life as a whole as you experience it. So if you've been experiencing wanting to lose weight for decades, I want you to ask yourself this first question as you come into this podcast. How's my way working for me? Now, you might say, well, Lisa, it works when I'm calm. It works when I'm, on a routine. It works when I'm, following along with all of my food rules. And I will challenge you to question yourself on that. Because again, if it was sustainable and you didn't have to continue to do that forever and ever and ever, well, then you wouldn't ever have to worry about it. You wouldn't have to think about your weight. You wouldn't have to weigh in every day. You wouldn't have to count calories. You wouldn't have to count points. You wouldn't have to belong to lifetime memberships to where you have to specifically itemize every single gram of protein that you put into your body or you're putting them into your mouth on a daily basis. You'd just be able to eat. Now, you might say to me, well, all right, Lisa, that's fine and all for a normal person, but I'm not a normal person. I'm one of those people that can't be trusted around food. I know myself so well. I have to monitor my diet. I have to, measure and weigh everything. I have to watch myself because if I don't, whew, pack on the pounds, I'll go, right? The thing is, though, is that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, getting to those weight loss goals, and then putting the weight back on and then taking it back off, and then putting it back on and taking it back off, you're not going anywhere. And so what you're ending up doing is you're ending up standing in your own way of ever fixing the root cause of the problem. Now, you might say to me, well, Lisa, this is just how I am. Everybody's different. This is how I am. And I would like to teach you today how to challenge yourself to have a new way of thinking. Because if you stay in that particular mindset, then you will always stay in that particular mindset. And so in this episode today of the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast, I would like to introduce you to a new way of thinking. And honestly, it's my pleasure to challenge you to think in a new way, which is why after struggling for 30 years with an emotional eating habit, thinking to myself, I just wish I could eat one of those normal people, but I'm not normal. And thinking that I was just this way forever and ever and ever. And I was just one of those people. I couldn't fix the problem. And the reason why I'm so excited to share with you some new ideas today is because unless you know better, you can't do better. And at the time that I was struggling, I didn't know better either. So I couldn't do any better. And I just thought that this is how it would be forever. Now that I have fixed my emotional eating habits from the roots, I've crushed my food thing 100%. Not only have I done that, and yet I've also taught about hundreds of other women to do that as well. And we have testimonial after testimonial of women who can share with you their journey. And trust me when I say you're going to hear yourself within their journey, because they all went through the same exact process where they went on diet after diet for year after year, struggling with weight loss and had goals that were weight loss related, only to end up in the same place again and again and again. Without ever uncovering and fixing and discovering the root cause of the problem, the challenges with emotional eating will stay. And you will never be able to fix these challenges with surface level solutions like diets, like weight loss goals, like exercise, all that stuff. All of that stuff is, knowledge, and the knowledge is great. And once you're able to utilize the knowledge because you don't have an emotional eating habit anymore, well, then it'll work well to know all of those details about nutrition and about exercise and about activity and movement and all that stuff. That's great. But if underneath the roots, you have a problem, literally like a root cause of the problem, then you working on surface level solutions like weight loss, like diets, like, food rules, like, 75-day challenges and all that stuff, all that's going to do is make you feel stuck more once the challenge is over and you still don't know what the heck you're doing because you might know better and yet you can't do better. So what we did in the last episode, which was episode 18, was I shared with you about what type of emotional eater you are. And if you haven't watched that episode, I'll urge you to go back and watch that, although we are going to go over some of that today as well. If you also want to hear some other stories from women who are just like you, who were just like me, I'd like you to listen to episode number 10, episode number 16, and episode number 17, where you'll hear some stories from some of my actual students who have crushed their food thing through taking a journey of self-discovery. So in this episode today, again, we're going to talk about realistic and sustainable goals, and we will not be talking about weight loss. So if that disappoints you, you can definitely hop out and opt out of listening to this episode. But if you're even just a slight bit curious about what I have to say and what new information we can add and how that's going to add value to your life, we'll be able to work together to take away some of those old thoughts about your diet habits, about how to eat, about what to do with exercise and how to lose weight and all that stuff, because I'd like to be able to challenge you to create a new way of thinking for yourself. And when you're creating a new way of thinking for yourself, these are self-discovery strategies, right? These are things where you don't know yourself so well. What you're doing is you're curious to know what new things that you can learn about yourself. So if you're interested in starting to take a journey of self-discovery, we have a lot of options for you to be able to work with us. So let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about self-discovery and like what 3 things you would have to have first to get started. Number one, you must have an open mindset because a closed mind cannot accept any new ideas. And so when you think about the things that you feel might be working for you, like maybe you can lose 15 pounds, or maybe you used to be able to lose 30 pounds as soon as you started paying attention to your eating habits, but now as you're getting older and now your metabolism's different and whatnot, like it doesn't work as well anymore. But you can still lose, a good 5 to 10 pounds, but then you sort of get stuck and all that stuff. And then you gain the weight back as soon as you go on the first vacation. So these are not new things. This is an old way of being. So I want to challenge you to be able to think about things in a new way, because as you begin to think about creating realistic and sustainable goals for yourself, we're going to have to be able to open our mindset to a new level of awareness. Because if the old way was working for you, well, then you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast on how to set realistic and sustainable weight loss goals for yourself. All right, number 2, when you are thinking about being able to explore a new way of thinking, you will have to be willing to take into your mindset a new way of thinking, because nothing's easy for the willing, nothing is easy for the unwilling, and you won't be able to keep all of your old thoughts and keep all of your new thoughts. You just won't be able to do that. What'll end up happening is that if your old thoughts are inside of you and you're just like, they're like cemented in concrete, I want you to think about it like this. Let's say, for example, you're holding like, I don't know, 5 paper bags and you've got them in your arms. And inside of each one of the paper bags is your old story. So let's say you took your storybook from your history, from your life, and you ripped out page after page after page and you stuffed it in the bottom of this 5 bags that you're carrying. Then you are gathering information. You're listening to podcasts, you're reading self-help books, you're doing all this new stuff. And you take all that new stuff and it drops into the tops of these 5 bags. But remember, your old story is in the bottom. What happens is, as you're floating around life and things happen, all this stress comes in. Suddenly, there's a extra crazy bill to pay. Your dog got sick. Your parents are getting older. Your loved one has something happen. Somebody has, something that they need you for, and you don't know what to do, and all of that stuff. All of the normal daily life stuff that happens, it's almost like hitting a bump in the road. So think about that. And you've got all these bags in your hand. You've got your old information in the bottom of the bags. You've got all this new information pouring in on the top, like how to eat right, how to exercise, how to write a food journal, how to diary, how to talk to yourself, how to meditate, how to do all these things, right? These are all new things. And you're trying to add all of these new things into your life. But then you hit that bump in the road. And what happens? Ba-bump. And then all of the new stuff, because you hit the bump in the road, falls out of the top of the bags. Well, what do you have to work off of now? All the old stuff, which is why you are stuck in repeat patterns that you've been stuck in for decades. So what self-discovery helps you to do is it helps you to rewrite the old story. So that way you don't have the old story at the bottom of the bag. What you're actually ending up doing is you're creating a new story. So you take your old story, you create a new version of the truth, and that allows you to set the course for yourself on new foundation, like almost like new territory. Now, when you're doing this and you're learning new things about yourself, that might feel a little scary at first, which is why what we will also have you do, and this is another part of self-discovery, is we will have you enter this space with a beginner's mindset, teaching you how to lower your expectations of yourself. Because if you have your expectations of yourself set so high, you're going to feel like you failed over and over and over. And this isn't fair to you, because it's not fair for you to come in with this story about yourself. The story says, I can't be trusted around food, right? But then you set a goal for yourself. You're like, I'm not going to eat any bread for the rest of my life. But then you're at dinner, you got the bread at the table, but you have this background voice that's like, you can't trust yourself. You're one of those people. And so then what happens? You reach for the bread and then you tell yourself you'll start over again on Monday. Well, this doesn't work, because it's just not going to allow you the freedom to be able to shift into a new way of thinking, since your old way of thinking is keeping you stuck right in the same place that you've always been. So as we journey on and we teach you about how to set realistic and sustainable goals, will want to incorporate your mindset into being able to reach a new level of awareness. So I'm going to review a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, and then we're going to review a little bit of episode 18, where I teach you about how to have a new level of awareness. So just to give you a little bit of pre-information about what you're going to gain from this podcast. So I encourage you to listen to the whole thing, because this episode is going to be just a slightly longer than some of my other ones. The first thing that we're going to be talking about is what's the difference between a realistic goal and an unrealistic wish. And there is a difference. We want to make certain that you learn how to create a future version of yourself that is achievable. Right? If you're setting your expectations of yourself way too high, you might be missing some really critical steps to be able to get to your goals, simply because you're setting your expectations at an unrealistic level for yourself. So we'll be talking about that too. We're also going to give you an acronym for the word goals, GOALS, and how you can have a new way of thinking about goals so that you can make the necessary changes that you want to make quickly, efficiently, and very simply. We don't want to overcomplicate things. And the last thing that we're going to do, and we already talked about this a little bit, is we're going to make certain that you do not have weight loss goals, because this is a huge mistake that you might not be recognized that you're making. Now, please know that if you've been making the same mistake for the last 50 years, that's okay. It's okay. You can change from one moment to the next, because you're the only one that is thinking and listening in your own head. So as long as we can make room for new information, right? Remember, we were talking about those bags before. If the same old stuff is at the bottom of the bags and you keep compiling new stuff in, as soon as you hit a bump in the road, what's going to happen? The new stuff's going to fall out. What we want to do is we want to help you create a new version of the truth. And that way you can take any mistakes that you feel like you've made in the past, and you can learn from them. Mistakes are meant to be learned from, and there is a simple step-by-step solution that I can teach you how to follow. All right, let's dive in. So as we start thinking about our levels of awareness, and remember, we did talk about this in episode 18. So if you wanted to go back and check that out, it is the episode right before this one. So levels of awareness, there are 5. We start from the bottom and we work our way up. So think about it like a ladder, or even like a triangle. So if you think about a triangle being like wide at the bottom and small at the top, we'll start with the level 5, which is right at the bottom. That one is called desire aware. If you're in desire aware, you might be struggling with thinking that, you wish you could lose weight, you wish you could have a different life, you wish you could change your job, you wish anything really. You wish you could move into a different state. You wish you hadn't been born into an Italian family where pasta's like, your bloodline, right? Like there's a lot of wishes, right? So you have these desires, but you're kind of like, whatever, like I can't do anything about it. Like I'd really like to eat better, but like my stupid work brings all these goodies into the snack room, and like how can I pass by a fresh bowl of M&Ms? Like it's not possible, right? So we have these wishes, but we really don't think that it's realistic for us to think about ever changing anything, since like whatever, this is just how it is. It's not my fault my husband likes to bring pizza home every Friday, and like we have like gobs of pizza and ice cream sitting on the couch every night. Like I don't know, it's not my fault that my best friend and I like to go out drinking. Like what can I do about it, right? It's not my fault that there's like a Starbucks in every corner and I'm addicted to these sugary drinks. It's just how it is. I'm a sugar addict. What am I going to do? I like food too much. Like these are the thoughts that you might be having if you're stuck in desire aware. And there's nothing wrong with this. It's just that that's where you're starting. So give yourself some grace and start to move up the ladder. Because if you're in desire aware, we have opportunities that we can help you with. And all the opportunities that I'm going to share with you today are in the show notes. So if you're in desire aware, go ahead and look in the show notes and grab the link to the Mindset Makeover, 21 Days to Stop Eating Your Emotions. This will get you started on your self-discovery journey. So please, you could stop the video right now. In fact, just go grab the link and sign up. It's a 21-day course, but you get to keep it forever, and you get a free Facebook group, and you'll have some interaction with some of my team, which is super awesome. And it'll give you the first 21 steps that you are going to require to take to move yourself up this ladder. So let's move up to the next one. The next one is called compare aware. Now, this is where you are not seeing yourself at all, because you're looking to the right and you're looking to the left. You're looking up, you're looking down, you're looking all around, you're looking at everybody else but you. And you're comparing yourself to other people. So you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, well, I've got an extra 20 pounds on me, but you should see my neighbor. Wow, I'm not as bad as them. Or you might be thinking, wow, like I thought I was doing so good. And I actually thought I looked really good in this dress until my coworker walked in and my gosh, she looks like a runway supermodel. Like now I feel like a dumpo, I feel like dumpy. And so you might be comparing yourself to others. Now, maybe you got caught in compare-aware when you were a little kid. Maybe somebody said something to you like, you're the biggest kid in the class, or, hey, you should really put down that second donut. Like, I don't know, patting you on the belly, getting a little bit pudgy there, Missy. So maybe you got like compared to others, and maybe you got called, certain names that sat in there with you. I got called husky and hefty and solid and big boned and I don't know, thick. Like I had all those labels in my head. So going into my adult years, I was just like, oh, this is what it is. So no matter how much I dieted, I ended up getting like a dysmorphic image. So like it didn't matter how much weight I lost. I actually would look in the mirror and I would see thick and heavy and big boned, and like I couldn't see what the mirror was saying. And I knew that there was a distorted vision. I didn't know what to do about it. And I didn't realize that I even could do anything about it. I always wished that I could change it, but I thought I couldn't. So I was stuck in that desire aware and compare aware. In fact, I've been in every one of these awareness levels, so I really can relate to them. And if you go back and watch episode 18, you'll see that I didn't get this off the internet. I actually created this myself because I created this from my own experiences. And that's really how I've created all of my programs, right? They've been through the process of my experiences. And then after working with students for over half a decade now and working with hundreds and talking to thousands of women, I've been able to itemize it and to piece it together in a sensible, logical, step-by-step, piece-by-piece, not complicated way so that you can really understand where your awareness level is. The next one up on the ladder would be conflict aware. This is your overachiever. This is you if you are like a high-level worker. You are, you go to work, you like know what's going on. You're an administrator, you're a nurse, you're in charge of everything. You're a leader. You're kind of organized in your life. You're maybe the room mom. You've got things like labeled in your house, like what's going on. Possibly you're showing signs of perfectionism, like you're feeling like there's maybe this like perfect look that you've got. Your Facebook is showing all the smiles and everything. And then yet there's certain parts of your life that you're like, what's wrong with me? Like I'm educated. I know what to eat. Like I've been on a million diet plans. Like I have all the nutrition education. And yet at the same time, like there's these times where I'm just like lazy, I'm unmotivated. I feel like a fraud. Like I don't know. There's like a mismatch going on. So this is where there's a conflict between you and you. You're standing in your own way. You call yourself your own worst enemy. You tell yourself, I'm on the wagon or I'm off the wagon, or I'm on the track or I'm off the track. You let yourself go when you're on vacation because you're like, oh, it's okay. I'm on vacation. I'll get back on track, soon. And this is when you have high regards for yourself. You feel like I'm in charge. Like people come to me for help. Like I can't show any flaws. Like I'm this real person, and I really I help everybody. I make sure that like I take care of everything, and like all my family depends on me. And you pride yourself in that. You feel like you're, kind of a superwoman. Yet at the same time, there's this weakness inside of you, and nobody knows that. So nobody sees you sweat. People put you up on this high regard that you put yourself in, and you are very, very super and not allowing yourself to be human. You might not feel like you can cry very easily because you might not want to show that side of yourself to yourself. So there's a conflict. Consequently, then when you let loose, you freaking let loose. Like you're just going to go like crazy and sort of feel like you're like, who is that? And then you'll get yourself back on track again, right? And so this is the all or nothing mindset, the black and white, the good and bad, the right and wrong. This is the conflict that you have between who you know you should be, who you know that you want to be, and who you really believe you are. So this comes along with a lot of insecurities, a lot of self-worth problems, but you won't really let other people see that because they're depending on you too much. So this is a lot of pressure. This level of awareness has a lot of pressure. I lived in this space for at least 20 to 30 years. It was a long time. This was where I spent most of my time. Now, sometimes we'll talk about something called the hamster wheel, or like we feel like we're standing in our own way, or we're in the vicious cycle or something like that. That is when you are fluctuating between desire aware, compare aware, and conflict aware. It will be a circular spin. And so you'll be like on the track, you'll be like going up, and then you'll go down, and then you'll go up, and then you'll go down, all around and round and round. And this is a circle. So once you can move into the top part of this triangle, which, the top part of a triangle is smaller, but the reason why it's smaller is because most people don't take the opportunity to be able to see the value of becoming curious. Like, well, instead of just accepting this is how I am, I get curious about it. Why am I like this? How come? What about me? Like, how come I'm so concerned about everybody else and I'm really good about helping people and all that stuff? But what about the micro decisions that I make when I'm alone? If I was playing my thoughts in my head on a loudspeaker, would I be proud? Is the smile on my face when I have at work the same as what's going on in my head? Or am I actually judging people against myself? Or, am I judging myself against other people? Am I in conflict? Like, what's going on? So when I work with you in my system, Crush That Food Thing Self-Discovery System, we work with you because you want to get curious. You want to understand yourself on a deeper level. You want to think about things through a wider lens. And that is where we'll start here on being able to set realistic and sustainable goals. So what you're going to do now is grab a piece of paper and a pen. And for the rest of the time that we're chatting here, we're going to be writing some stuff down so that way you can really see a whole picture of what it is that you want. What do you say you want versus what are you doing? Okay. And we're going to see if there's a mismatch, and we're going to get curious, because that's what I do. I help lead women towards curiosity instead of staying stuck in conflict, comparison, and just the desire to change, but really never believing that they can. All right. So the first thing that you're going to do on your paper is you're going to write down, what is my ultimate goal? What do you want? And if your ultimate goal is unrealistic, we're going to see that through the next part of the process. So if you have to pause this video, that's totally fine. Don't write a book. Just write like a sentence. Just what's your ultimate? What do you want to feel? Okay. And please make certain that it's not a weight loss goal. Do not say, I want to lose 100 pounds, because that's not valuable. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start to take your ultimate goal and we're going to turn it into a vision. But we're going to separate that vision into sides, basically like what will happen if I attain my goal and what will happen if I never reach my goal. What will happen? What's the price on the line, right? If I never reach this goal, what will happen? A lot of people say to me, they're like, well, I'll die earlier. And I'm like, okay, well, then I think it's time to get started. And then they'll say, well, I don't know how, or I'm scared, or I don't really want to, and I'm like, hang on a minute. Like, we just talked about the value of your life. So that might be the first part of the problem. Maybe the ultimate goal has to be that I have to have more value for my actual life. Because if we're just so easily saying like, well, I know if I don't reach this goal, I'm not going to live a long time, and then we don't do the necessary steps to actually achieve that goal, then perhaps the problem is that the value of our life is not worthy, that we don't feel worthy, that we feel like we're fundamentally flawed and we feel like we can't change that. And if that's you, I want to challenge you to open up your mindset to a new level of awareness. All right. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to write down, you're going to take your ultimate goal and you're going to write down, what will happen once I reach my goal? What will change about my life? And then write down, what will happen if I don't reach my goal? What will change about my life? If I don't reach my goal, is this problem going to get worse? What does that look like? Am I going to end up not being able to walk? Am I going to end up losing relationships in my life? Am I going to end up, being more and more scared? Am I going to end up sitting there staring at the TV or Facebook all day while my life just floats away? Like, what will happen? What will happen if I don't reach my ultimate goal? Then what I want you to do is I want you to look at this from an overview, almost as if you're taking a 30,000-foot view. Look at yourself from above. Just see yourself as a whole human being instead of like being contaminated with the problems that are going on in your day-to-day life, because we're not worried about those problems. What we want to do is we want to see what roadblocks do you feel are keeping you stuck from reaching your ultimate goal. Because if there were no roadblocks, then you just reach the goal and you'd check that off the list and you'd go to the next goal. But because you might have been stuck for decades now, dreaming of this ultimate goal of yours, and you might be stuck in that desire aware, compare aware, or conflict aware, well, that's going to be a problem. So let's get it down on paper, right? The truth is the truth. So write down 7 roadblocks that you feel are preventing you from achieving your ultimate goal. And you can pause this if you have to. The next thing that you're going to do, you're going to look at those 7 roadblocks and you're going to put an X or cross out 4 of them. Because I know that most of the time people have massive amounts of roadblocks, and you might be able to write like a book, and I'm challenging you to only write 7 of them. Now, those 7 might have nothing to do with you. It might be like, well, my parents are aging, my dog is sick, my husband just lost his job, I'm worried about my kids, I'm worried about my grandkids, my little one that's in 4th grade, like I worry about his life. I worry if he's going to get to college, like he's so rambunctious. And like I just said, he's in 4th grade, but this might keep you up at night. Like, I don't know, right? I'm not getting enough sleep, but then like you're the one that's sitting there turning on the TV at 11 o'clock at night and, grabbing a bowl of sugary snacks that's going to like elevate your heart rate, right? So like, it's like, what are your roadblocks? Like, what are you doing? Now you might say, well, I can't sleep, Lisa. Okay. And who had the remote control in their hand though, right? So you want to be able to see this through a bigger picture and a wider lens. And that's why I want you to X out the ones that are like too far, like out of your reach. Like you can't change these things, right? So really look at these 7 roadblocks and X out the ones that you can't do a dang thing about. Like you might talk about the politics of the world being roadblock for you because you're too nervous to take care of yourself because all this stuff's going on in the world. Give that one an X because you can't do anything about it, right? And when you are in a different mindset, maybe you can add value somewhere, but you sitting there worrying about it is certainly not adding value to your life. So I want you to be able to see the top 3 roadblocks that you can actually do something about. So you've X'd out 4, you've got 3 left. And this is one of the first thoughts about goals. There are no such things as like balance, let's say, and priorities. Really, if you're like not putting yourself in as a priority, then nothing else really matters. So all we want to do is be able to see with these goals, which 3 are the ones that you can actually do something about. Okay. Now, I want you to look at these 3 roadblocks that you have left. And remember, you're never going to set more than 3 goals for yourself at a time. So if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I have to write down all my food. I've got to count all my macros. I've got to, send my nutrition list to my nutritionist. I've got to make sure that I get 10,000 steps in. I have to make sure that I log my sleep. I've got to put my Apple Watch and set that. And then, my doctor told me that I should do these brain games so that I don't get, Alzheimer's. And so I've got that on my list. And I have to make sure that I write my journal, and I've got to make sure that I meditate, and I've got, whew, it's exhausting. It's exhausting thinking of all of the things that you are supposed to do, all while ignoring the root cause of the problem. And if you just fix that, then you'd be able to do what serves your best interest and not have to worry about all the things that you're supposed to do to feel better about yourself, all while you're allowing the reason why you don't feel good about yourself to begin with to sit there and fester and get worse and worse, right? So I want you to think about what is the one thing that all of these 3 roadblocks have in common. And please think inward. Think to yourself, well, if I had more confidence, then probably these 3 things would be okay. Like maybe one of your roadblocks is like, I don't know, you want to change something in a relationship, but you feel like you don't have a voice. You feel like you don't have confidence because that's how you've always been. Well, guess what? that's a roadblock that you can change because it's about you. And so I want you to look at these 3 roadblocks and I want you to ask yourself, am I the common denominator? Right? Are all these 3 things, and if you even want to look at your list of 7, it's like, are the roadblocks different? But the one thing about it that's not different is me. Are you the common denominator of your roadblocks? To really, really take that one in. Okay, now I want you to think to yourself, what do you think is holding you back from breaking through these roadblocks? So again, if this is lack of confidence, if this is negative thinking, if this is feeling less than, if this is feeling not worthy, if this is feeling like you don't deserve it, if this is feeling guilty, if this is feeling ashamed, if this is feeling embarrassed, like what is it? What's at the root of this problem? And I'll pause here to let you in on a thought of if these are the things that you're struggling with. In addition to the mindset makeover, which again is in the show notes, I have 2 more opportunities that would be really good for you if those are the roadblocks that are keeping you stuck. One is called the Confidence Mastery Mini Course. That one is a really great one if you're struggling with being able to hear your inner voice, if you have past voices that are keeping you stuck, if you don't know how to heal broken hearts and frozen emotions and things that you may have been like sitting on for decades now, things that happened in the past. And maybe those things are holding your confidence hostage. Like you were a shy child, or, you were told kids are meant to be seen, not heard. And these things have kept you stuck. Maybe there's a guilt factor in there. Maybe you did something wrong in school, or you got a bad grade, but then, right after that, your parents got divorced and you thought, oh my gosh, if I had just been a better girl, like if I had just been a better kid, or something happened, and you might have taken an immature responsibility for something in your past. And this is perhaps giving you a thought that you are having a lack of confidence. So Confidence Mastery Mini Course is amazing. The other opportunity that is really cool if you're struggling with some of those negative thoughts about yourself, or if, like I said before, like your mindset doesn't allow you the freedom to be able to like have the insides of what you're thinking and the outsides of how you're being match. So if you're putting on that sort of suit every day and going to work and being like, yes, of course, oh, I'll take care of that. And then inside you're like, why is this person asking me for this again? How annoying, whatever. And you're just like judging people and you're having negative thoughts. And perhaps you're even thinking negatively about yourself. Then you might want to go ahead and grab our Happy Thoughts Bootcamp. So this is an amazing opportunity if you want to know how to get out of stinking thinking. And these are going to be great for you if you're in compare aware and conflict aware, and also desire aware. So now we've got 3 things that you can go ahead and grab, and they're really affordable. Let's just put it that way. Mindset Makeover, Confidence Mastery Mini Course, and Happy Thoughts Bootcamp. You can grab all of those if you want. So that's when you're going to be able to see what might be holding you back from breaking through these roadblocks that you have. Now, what you're going to do next is you're going to write down on one side of your paper the word love. Other side of your paper, you're going to write down the word fear. You're going to draw a line in the middle. I want you to write down all of your fear-based thoughts. Now, do me a favor. Don't go over 10, okay? You might have a lot of fear-based thoughts. You might have a whole, story about fear, why I can't do this, why I can't do that. And if you ever work with me in Crush Everything Self-Discovery System, you'll learn how to do an exercise called the brain dump. And we'll go into more detail on what it means to have this like fear versus love for your thoughts. And so write down all of your fear-based thoughts and then write down some loving thoughts for yourself. Like, why do you want to reach your ultimate goal? And if your answer is, I want to be here for my grandchildren, or I want to be here for my children, like I want to be here for them, please put that on the fear side, because it's not a loving thought, because you're not putting yourself in the driver's seat of your own life and you're not valuing your own worth. You might want to say, well, I deserve happiness. I deserve love and belonging. I deserve to feel confident in my own skin. I deserve to like myself and treat myself like I would a friend. Those are loving thoughts. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take action on your loving thoughts, because that's going to help you get to realistic and sustainable goals. Again, if you're the one thing standing in your own way because you are contaminated with negative thinking, you're contaminated with fear-based thoughts, you're contaminated with surface level solutions to try and solve a deep-rooted problem, well, we got to get you out of that mindset. So here are some love-based action steps that you can take. Number one, you can create a mantra to remind you of your purpose. A lot of people are like, oh, I just need motivation. So they hire a personal trainer, they hire a nutritionist. They think that if they get their 10,000 steps a day, they think that if they put on their Apple Watch and they're sleeping well and they're drinking all their water and doing all that stuff, they feel like they're doing the right thing. But like I said, if there is an anchor, if there is a root to a problem that you cannot solve, and you're just going to focus on surface level solutions, all that's going to do is keep you busy. What'll end up happening, and this probably has happened over and over, is that you will lose motivation. You will tell yourself, I'm off the track, and you will repeat the cycle again and again and again. How many times have you done that already? So I don't want you to look for motivation. I want you to discover purpose. If your purpose is, well, I've never had self-worth, then that's your purpose. And if you work on and focus on discovering why you don't have self-worth and work and focus on that, you will find your motivation, period. So maybe a mantra would help you to be able to remind yourself, I am worthy, I am valuable, I am important. I want to experience what it feels like to love myself in my lifetime. I want to know what that feels like. And these are mantras that you can write for yourself and help yourself navigate to a safe place where you're not the one that's standing in your own way. And you never say the words again, I am my own worst enemy. Please, if you're saying that to yourself, maybe it's time for you to think about challenging yourself to work with a mindset coach and to help you through this process. The next love-based action is to lower your expectations of yourself, of when you should reach this end result. So many people say to me, well, at my age, shouldn't I feel like this already? Like, you think I know already. My gosh, I'm in my 60s. You think I get this already. You know, I'm such a smart woman. I had a great career. I helped everybody. Like, what's wrong with me? Lower your expectations, because you've been doing it the wrong way for decades now. So you'll always get good at what you practice. And if you've been focusing on surface level solutions to solve a deep-rooted problem that you don't know how to solve the deep-rooted problem at all, then you'll have to lower your expectations, because it's not fair to have an expectation of yourself to know how to fix a problem that you've been working on not fixing for decades now. Like, that's not fair. So again, if you don't know any better, you can't do any better. So if you'd like an opportunity to learn about self-discovery and learn about how to fix the root cause of the problem, then we'll talk about perhaps getting you signed up for Crush That Food Thing Self-Discovery System. And I'll let you know how to do that in a minute in the show notes. You can grab a link. The next love-based action step is to want it more than you fear it. So do the work even when you don't want to. The thing is that most of us do not recognize the micro decisions that we make when we're alone. We would never, ever let anyone else down. For ourselves, we're like, yeah, you know what? I don't feel like, I'll do it next time. I'm not, I tried, I can't, I feel like a failure, whatever. I'm so unmotivated. I'm so lazy. I've heard people say this all the time. I'm so lazy. I'm like, no, you're not. Because if your social group or your, I don't know, church or kids' school or next door neighbor or boss or whatever asked you to do something, you'd be lickety split right on that. You're like the least lazy person in the world. To yourself, you're like, whatever. I'm just so unmotivated. I can't do it. And you tell yourself these things, which is so mean. So sometimes, because we have a fear of getting to a place where it's like, if you have a feeling inside of you that you have an unworthiness in this world to begin with, and you're like, well, I've always been the fixer. I'm a people pleaser. Like, I help people. That's who I am. That's what my life is about. that's, great and all. Just how's that way working for you? And sometimes we fear that if we allow ourselves to heal, like that our goodness will go away. That's just fear. It's not true. You're always going to be, from a core human being, if you're a caring, loving, compassionate, empathetic, kind human being, and you fix that for yourself and you learn that you're allowed to be kind and compassionate and caring and loving for yourself, you're not going to suddenly turn into like a person who's, doesn't care about anybody. Like that just is just not true. And honestly, I thought that way too. I kind of thought that if I healed all my stuff, that then I would become, one of these like rigid, mean people who just like cared about themselves, and so the opposite. So that's just all fear. And if you want to learn an acronym for fear, it's false evidence appearing real. So that's just voices in your head that you just got to be like, no, that's just not true. So the next one is love-based action step, is to tell yourself there's no such thing as failure, only redirection. If you're stuck in that conflict mindset, you're going to feel like you have to have it all or nothing. And then you're going to judge yourself against yourself. So maybe there was a time in your life when you were in your 20s or 30s where you were like working out and you were fit and you had these great relationships and you were kind of climbing to the top of the ladder. And then something happened. You had a health injury, like somebody got sick in your family. Suddenly you had to take care of somebody else. And then or you had children, and then you're just like, ugh, to heck with it. Right. And so you kind of have that mindset, if I can't do it all, I ain't got nothing. And that's just not true. There is no such thing as failure. There's just redirection. And so if you're not redirecting yourself into curiosity, it's like, well, why am I this way to begin with? Like, who is that version of me who is stuck in an all or nothing mindset? Like, when did that start? Like, how did I develop that thought process? And you might say to me, well, that's how my parents were. That's what my mom was. That's how my coach was. I was an athlete as a kid. And like, my coaches always told me, like, you had to do this or you'd be a failure. Like, whatever it is, there's a voice inside of you that is not being very loving, not being very kind, and is causing you a lot of fear. So we want to be able to take that away. All right. So remember this, you'll always get more of what you focus on. And so if you're focused on fear, and if that is part of what it is that you've been doing for decades now, just remember this. You'll always get more of what you focus on. If you focus on fear, you will get more fear. If you focus on why you can't do something, you're always going to get more obstacles put in your way. And if you focus on excuses, you will always get more excuses. So we're going to talk just for a minute now about, I shared at the beginning that we're going to give you an acronym for the word goals. So you can write this down. So GOALS. We'll go through one of them at a time. So the first one is the G. That one is called gain life. Gain life. And that's why I never want you to focus on weight loss, because if you focus on life gain, weight is a symptom of an underlying problem. So if you focus on life gain and you start to fix the root cause of the problem, then you'll be able to lose weight naturally, simply because you'll be making better decisions and you will naturally want to take care of yourself better. So life gain means that your only goal is to add value to your life by focusing on what you can do. And well, let me just put that on with a different like tone. Focusing on more of what you can do instead of what you can't do. And then you'll be able to add value to your life because you'll be able to focus on thoughts that are meant to help you grow instead of thoughts that are bringing you fear. Once you can focus on thoughts that are meant to help you grow, you'll actually be able to learn how to live your life with integrity and being like authentic to yourself. The next one is the O. So it's called own your struggle. When you own your struggle, it means that you're taking your old story and instead of keeping it at the bottom of the bag and trying to add new things while the bottom of the bag is getting heavier and heavier and heavier, you'll be able to take your old experiences and you'll be able to turn them into your purpose. And that includes the challenges. So when you can remind yourself that every experience in your life is purposeful, even the challenges, the trick about this is that you'll be able to then set realistic and achievable goals, since you'll give yourself grace And you'll also be able to focus on your purpose instead of continuing to spin back around the challenges, right? Where you're saying like, well, I wish I could, but this is what I have to deal with, so can't do that, right? And so then you won't be focusing on excuses, you'll be focusing on your purpose. And this will help you turn your struggle into your strength instead of dwelling on the past. And that can lead you towards your future self. The next one is the A, and this is called take imperfect action. And I want you to write this down. Taking imperfect action is better than perfect procrastination. So when you take imperfect action, it'll equal freedom. This is freedom to make mistakes so that you can learn new things. Mistakes are critical in learning. They help us to grow, learn, shift, and change. Without mistakes, we remain stuck in the past and locked out of the possibilities of ever learning something new. So even, if you have children or grandchildren, like if they make a mistake, you're like, don't worry, you'll just learn next time and all that stuff. But for ourselves, we keep ourselves locked in our mistakes and then we try and do everything so perfect. And that's where we get into that conflict with ourselves. The L in the word goals is love. Love the outcome more than you fear it. And we kind of talked about that a minute ago. So this is a quote. I don't know where it came from, and I've got thousands of quotes. So if this is your quote, please claim it. It's yours. I'm just going to put it out there. I don't know who said it. It says, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasures that you seek. So everything that's worth anything is on the other side of fear. Fear causes us to accept a life that feels comfortably uncomfortable, kind of like trying to sleep on a bed of nails. As you face your fears, you will discover your courage. The only way for you to ever discover your courage is for you to face your fears. A fear faced is a fear erased. That's where the magic happens. And the last one is S, so goals, GOALS, is simplify it. Take one first, next, right step at a time. Say the words, I refuse to be confused. I refuse to be confused. And if something's confusing, then take it apart and just get rid of the parts that aren't important, just like the roadblocks, right? There were 7 of them. Now you only have 3. Most things are quite simple. They're just emotionally difficult. When you focus on the things that confuse you, your goals will feel scary and unrealistic, unreachable. So instead, you can stay focused on one first, next, right step at a time and remind yourself that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So what I want to finish off here with, because this is the end of our episode here, what I want to finish off with is the other opportunities that are in the show notes today. And I'll be able to go through those one by one with you. So as you think about what you want and you think about like how your way has been working for you, it's possible that you just don't know how to change things. And that's why working with a coach, and I had to work with a coach. So it wasn't like I was able to fix this. The problem is not obvious. So those roots that you have, the things that you have deep down, like it's not obvious. So unless you work with a mindset coach, it's not going to be that easy, right? So you might be taking something that you could get done in less than a year. Can you imagine just like 1 year from now, not having this problem with emotional eating at all? Can you imagine even 3 weeks from now, starting to think about things differently, starting to get out of that desire aware, compare aware, and conflict aware? Can you imagine getting curious and being like, wow, I'm a little nervous because I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm excited too. Can you imagine that? And so that's where I want to bring you towards the last 3 opportunities that we have for you. Opportunity number 1 is called the Crush Cravings with Confidence Academy. This academy is kind of awesome. It's 25 lessons that are self-discovery based. It's almost like a library. So you'll be able to go in just like you were taking a class and just kind of go into that one training. That training will come with an entire like workbook that's specific to that one training, and you get to keep it forever. So it's like you will have this library for yourself, this academy that you'll be able to keep and go back through again and again and again. It does come with a Facebook community where you can ask questions, but it's mostly an independent study. I recommend it if you're somewhere in, I would say, like compare aware and conflict aware. And if you just want to take like your first little bite at a self-discovery, that's a great way for you to start, because you can start to get the principles and start to understand, start to see things through a wider lens. You might even be listening to this podcast and being like, what the heck is she talking about? The academy's for you if you're curious, but you're kind of like, I just want to test the waters a little bit. I just want to see like what this is about, because I think this is for me. I just want to learn a little bit more, almost if you want to just do a little bit of homework first. That's for you. The next two opportunities are Crush That Food Thing Self-Discovery System, which is where we work with our students in a self-discovery journey. And there's two opportunities there. One is called the Hub Club membership. This is where you get to come to our weekly meeting. You get to have a Facebook community to ask questions in. You get the actual lessons from our learning hub, but you don't get the entire hub all at one time. You just get one lesson at a time. And each week the lessons rotate. So you'll get a lesson, then it goes away, then you'll get another lesson, then it goes away. But each week you'll get to come to our weekly meeting and you'll get to work with our educated, certified emotional eating instructor, and you'll be able to help yourself gain a new level of awareness with others that are struggling with the same thing as you. The final opportunity, and the best one, honestly, save the best for last, is Crush That Food Thing Self-Discovery System. So there's a link in the chat to book a free food freedom call. You cannot, not in the chat, in the show notes, you cannot come in to work with us in Crush That Food Thing. It's a VIP system. So we have to make certain we only accept students that we know that we can help 100%. And if not, we'll redirect you and we'll just say, hey, you know what? This would be a better option for you to start with. And we're super honest. We're not trying to sell you anything. We just want to help. But if you're at that point where you're like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to fix this. Then Crush That Food Thing Self-Discovery System would be the best option for you. And we'll have the link in the show notes. As always, if you want to reach out to me, find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook, DM me, send me a message. And my email address is lisa@coachlisacallahan.com. And I'll be so happy to reach out if you put in the email podcast, and I'll know that's where you got me. All right. I'll talk to you next time. Bye for now.
All right, my beautiful friend, that brings us to the end of another episode from the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening today and took something from our conversation that you are going to put into immediate action. I love spending time with you and would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with at least one friend today who you think might be struggling too. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any other amazing topics. And please, please do leave me a review. It would mean the world to me. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.